It's Thursday again, tell everybody to lock in, grab some popcorn, a drink, and go and throw your AirPods in. It's the 1 hour show, constantly speaking facts. Bulletproof stats are always shooting from Matt. And when it comes to Kyle, you getting numbers and style. Jake is gonna educate you, he has that knowledge on file. Players, step your game up, don't be sluggish or lazy. Or Jimmy J might hit you with a shaky baby. Catch him on YouTube or any podcast platform. Breaking all the news down like Shaq does the backboards. No hot takes, this is where the hottest debate's at. Now kick your feet up, cause it's time for straight facts.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates, entertains, brought to you by the Up On Game Presents Network. It's my guys, Jake Galley and Statbat Robinson. I'm James Jackson. No Kyle Sirig with us today. He's out being the great man that we know that he is. He said his girlfriend's birthday is this weekend, but he's like, I want to start doing stuff for her on Wednesday. And we applauded the young gentleman. We said, attaboy, attaboy. Yeah. Treat your
fitting in the schedule, man.
Attaboy.
Maybe bending the schedule.
And smart man, because the finals come on at 8, so you know what I mean? Let's go out to dinner at 6.
He's a tactician.
Statistician, that man. Truly he is. But we'll miss him for this episode, but I do got my guys Jake Galley and Statman Robinson. How y'all doing? Are y'all staying like cool out here? It's been hot, man.
My house is incredibly hot. Like, not only is it hot, okay, let me go down this story real quick.
Go into it.
Obviously, the bugs start to come back when it gets warmer out. And when I first moved into this house, it was kind of warm out, and there was like a little spider in the window. I don't really like spiders, but he was off on his own, wasn't coming in and interfering, and I had seen much scarier bugs, so I want him to kill those bugs. Mm-hmm. So I let him rock. Literally same spider in that window up until about a week ago. I find him dead in my windowsill, replaced by a different spider. So I don't know. A bigger spider. I have a couple working theories. Either that spider was killed by something out there. That's terrifying to think about because it had gotten pretty big.
Right.
Number 2, that's its baby. Or like number 3, that other spider killed it. So like, either way, I'm not good. Like that was my ride or die spider for a year.
I think it's option C, because it just looks like that spider is just basking in the victory of the, victory.
It really is. I'll send you a picture. It's crazy.
I vote option C.
He's on Pride Rock. And 2, you better hope it's not option B, because if that's his baby, spiders give birth to like thousands of spiders at one time, which means
that's what I thought. Yeah, this one was too big to be a baby.
Yeah, which means it's their house now, and you got to move.
All right.
If that's the case. But let's get into it, because we got much bigger things to talk about than the spider in Jake's windowsill. The NBA Finals are in the middle, and when we had our episode last time, we were previewing the finals. It was the day before Game 1. Fast forward a week, and we've missed 2 games, Game 1 and Games 2. Game 3 is getting played tonight as we record, full disclosure. So we'll table that and frame that for the rest of the pod. But before we get into that, we really got to talk about Games 1 and Games 2, because completely different games, right? Like flipped on their head. Game 1 was dominated a lot by Golden State, and the Celtics come storming back with a 120-108 victory. And if I would have told you that, Matt, you would have been like we said last week, oh, that was because of Jason Tatum. He had to have gone off. He had to have gotten going. And then you look at the box score and you're like, oh, everybody but Jason Tatum got going. So real quick, let's frame Game 1 real quick, Matt. What happened in Game 1? Your takeaway.
Game 1, I had a bad time. Watching Al Horford go on a ceiling run by himself in the fourth quarter of the NBA Finals was just like surreal for me to watch. And like every time Al Horford scored, my dad and I just like looked at each other with
big buckets.
And it's the Celtics showed mental toughness. It looked so much like Warriors just going to roll through Game 1 once they had the 15-point lead in the third quarter. Okay, this is what it is. And then the Celtics said, no, we're going to win this. It doesn't matter that our best player can't shoot at all. We're going to rely on our depth, and we're going to get a win in Golden State. And they did, which is their job. And it just shows that it's a matchup of, honestly, it's like the Warriors are the team that the Celtics are aspiring to become, not just from a champion's perspective, but from like a mentality perspective as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah,
And
a coming of age in this finals for sure.
and it just seems like if there's one team that could potentially beat the Warriors in a good shot to great shot competition, it's the Boston Celtics. And like specifically Al Horford. Like I honestly, Matt, it is a horror show when Al Horford gets going in the NBA finals. We don't have to get into the Al Horford Sixers time here, but like I do think that I mean like just a big presence overall, like in terms of, a center's presence down low. When Al Horford's winning that battle, the Celtics, even without Jason Tatum, as you said, are able to function. And I'm also, Jason Tatum did not have a good game one, 3 of 17 from the field, 13 assists. Like Jason Tatum, and I bring it up like a couple episodes ago, like any wing who is your primary ball handler should also be like your distributor. And that's kind of what he's turning into, where his shot isn't going, he's able to get others looks. So I was very impressed game one that Tatum was able to kind of meld his game to whatever the game flow was.
I mean, we've talked about the development of Jason Tatum. We've been maybe the only sports podcast in the country that has been high on the Boston Celtics all season. So we've talked about the maturation of Jason Tatum's game just within the season alone, going from just a scorer to a all-around basketball player and distributor. And it showed. Like that's why it was so important for him to get that going in the regular season, because it was an innate part of his game. Like it didn't have to. A switch didn't have to flip when he wasn't scoring and say, okay, I need to start passing the ball. I need to start getting other teammates involved. It's already a part of his game. It's already what he does. He was used to that. So when his shot's not falling, now it's just go deeper into that distributing bag, turn up the intensity on defense and affect the game in pretty much every other way. And that's what he did. Like that was so impressive of him to do. But the Boston Celtics others showed how important they are, I think, in both games, because they won them game one. And then when they don't show up in game two, you see Boston get run out the gym. Like Jason Tatum shows up in game two, and the Celtics others don't. Al Horford has his down game. Marcus Smart doesn't shoot as well. Grant Williams doesn't show up. It was Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown early, and Derek White. So that's, I think, really interesting, because we talked about that. Whose others were going to be more important, the Celtics or the Warriors? And right now, I'm seeing the Celtics others having more impact in games one and games two than I do the Warriors others. Am I wrong about that?
I don't know about that, because the Warriors in game two, the Warriors others, it not from a scoring perspective, but just from an overall perspective, I think Gary Payton Jr. had such a huge impact on the game in game two. The fact that he was able to play instead of Iguodala, who at this point is just washed, honestly. And he picked up Tatum from full court the whole game. That's what he did. Just, I'm gonna press you full game. I'm gonna annoy you. And
Jason Tatum went off.
But by the time the second half kicked in, he was tired and they were missing shots, and the Celtics couldn't score in the third quarter. And by the time the fourth quarter came around, it was over by that point. So just that exhaustion of like Iguodala can't do that. Iguodala is old. He has to pick his spots, and he's a great on-man defender still. But someone like Gary Payton Jr. can just annoy you for a whole game. And while the Warriors stemmed the tide in the first half, once the second half hit, they just kind of ended it.
Yeah, third quarter Warriors.
So the question was, whose others are better or more important to their team?
I think our exact question was whose others are going to like have a bigger impact.
I would say
they're going to affect the game more.
Yeah, in my opinion, it has to be Boston, and maybe I'm a little overreactive, but like their others are pretty high profile. Like Al Horford, as we saw, I think 26 points game one, 2 points in game two. So like you go down the list, Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year, Robert Williams was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. And when you go over to the Warriors side, you have Steph, Klay Thompson, who, and honestly, you could probably now throw in Jordan Poole, where if any of them are like on, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing.
Okay, but that's a little bit of my point, because even in a game two blowout win, was Klay Thompson on? They left Klay Thompson out there with all of the second and third stringers to get him looks, and he didn't score, and he still didn't score. Jordan Poole only decided to score when the game was out of reach.
I disagree with that.
Now Jordan not decided to score. He hit the big shot at the end of the first half. But watch the first quarter of Jordan Poole when it's still a close game back and forth. Terrible.
He exploded in the third quarter, which is when they put the game away. He was really bad in the first half, though.
So it's, my point is, like, you still don't get that great of an output from the Warriors role players, even in a win. But when the Celtics won, it was all of their role players hitting shots, all of their role players affecting the game. And then when they didn't step up for that help, the Celtics lose, even with Jaylen Brown off to a great start, even with Jason Tatum pacing the game pretty much the whole game. When the Celtics role players didn't step up, they didn't hit shots, they didn't win the game. They found themselves out of the game. That's what I mean by impactful.
And
I think a lot of that's just because of the nature of the game one versus game two. Game one was high scoring, game two was low scoring. So the Celtics role players scored a lot more because they had 120 points while the Warriors had 107. And what I was saying with Gary Payton Jr. also applies to Kevon Looney, who had a great game two, 6 of 6, 12 points, 7 rebounds. And even players that aren't getting really any love because it's like they had 3 points. Like Otto Porter had 3 points, but he also had 3 steals in 14 minutes.
Plus 24.
Otto Porter gave him great minutes. Yeah.
So it's not always, it's I think the Warriors others did exactly what they were supposed to do in game two. The Celtics others did exactly what they're supposed to do in game one. I just think they're different kinds of others, but they both are equally were equally important to the game. Celtics game one win and the Warriors game two win.
I think the more I think about it, I was really worried after game one. I turned the game off once the Celtics really started to take hold. I couldn't take it mentally. I'm not going to watch that. I'm not going to subject myself to that. But the more I think about it, I think this might be a Warriors series because, like you're saying, I get it. Tatum didn't have a good game. They still win, but they win off the back of Smart, Horford, and was it Derek White shooting 70% on 23 3-point attempts. They 16 of 23, 70%. So I don't know if you can bet on that to continue or if it's
maybe not 70%, from the field, but I can
from 3. That was from 3.
From 3, which is nuts. But I can bank on Jason Tatum drawing attention, kicking to his others, and then they got to make shots. Like in game 2, they were missing open shots.
Yeah.
They're not missing contested shots. They're missing open shots. So if those shots fall, they have good shooter. Grant Williams, good shooter. Peyton Pritchard, good shooter. Derek White, good shooter. I can bank on them making shots when open.
I mean, I just think that's the variance you're seeing where it's are they going to hit open shots? And maybe it's just a course correction. I'm sure I don't have the numbers here in front of me. Let's see. Al Horford 0 for 0 3-point attempts. Game 2. Smart 0 for 3.
Yeah, here we go.
Derek White is shooting high. He went 4 of 13 from the field, but 2 of 4 from 3. So, right, that's a big regression to the mean. So maybe we see kind of a middling of that.
Well, let's talk about the others and not always scoring affecting the game. I think Draymond Green was one of the most impressive players on the floor in game 2, and the box score would have you thinking he barely played. But his aggression, his intensity, his ability to disrupt Boston and get in their head, was invaluable for the Warriors in game 2 and led them to that win. So when you look at that continuing, if that keeps going for the Warriors, if Draymond's able to keep that up, then yeah, the Warriors could stem the tide. But that was imperative for the Warriors too, and I think that kind of energy, was contagious for the Warriors. That's why you see the role players not shooting as well. That's why you see players not stepping up when Draymond is able to set that defensive tone and that energy for the rest of the Warriors team. You see how much it frustrates the Boston Celtics, who a lot of these players are in this for the first time, and he knows when he's got a puppy in the shed, right? He knows when he's got a young pup who's never been here before, and I can really get them rattled. Draymond did his job beautifully in game 2, another role player that stepped up. And go ahead, Jake.
I was just gonna say him and Smart are carbon copies, different size
That's must see
players, but
TV. That's must see TV right there. When they get the flop wars, it is must see TV. It is so funny. Well, there's a play. I want to say it's like second or third quarter. It's middle of the game. Jason Tatum is driving to the basket, getting fouled by somebody else. But when they go to the baseline point of view, behind the play, behind the action, you just see Draymond pulling Marcus Smart to the ground and Marcus Smart falling on top of it. Like they're having their own little game while the game is going on. It's so funny
it's
to
like
see.
a screen sideshow, sort of like.
But someone's gonna have to. It's weird, but that's important. Like who wins that battle behind the scenes, that's important because they're both playing a role over there. And if Draymond wins that little battle, Draymond gets in the head of Marcus Smart. Draymond gets a foul of Marcus Smart. Draymond wins that matchup. Like Draymond, he won that rep.
The Broad Street Bullies, man. He's an enforcer.
He really have to you really have to keep an eye on that. Before we move on, I gotta give our guy Kyle his credit, man. When we talk about the others stepping up, this man, Derek White, has been the best role player on either team through the first 2 games. He's been great. And at the trade deadline, Kyle said that Derek White was low-key the best acquisition at the trade deadline, and we all laughed at him.
That is crazy. I forgot he said that.
Every single one of us laughed at him. And we're thinking, what? James Harden went to the Sixers. Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Andre Drummond went to the Nets. Karis LeVert went to the Cavs. Where are they now? Like, what? Yeah, I don't got to get into what happened with James Harden and the Sixers. That not working out. But Ben Simmons never ended up playing for the Nets. Seth Curry got hurt. Andre Drummond is Andre Drummond. The Cavs ended up crapping out, even with Karis LeVert on their team. They didn't end the season as hot as they were down the stretch of the season. And here goes Derek White hitting big shots, shooting very efficiently, being one of the best players on the floor for the Celtics in the NBA Finals. So this is Kyle's victory lap. I am giving him his just due because we certainly weren't on that wave when he said it. Certainly weren't on that wave. Matt is cringing so hard for all who are.
It's the Celtics. It's the fact it's the Celtics. Like the Sixers, this isn't some like unattainable level of like team talent that the Celtics are playing with. This isn't like when LeBron was in his prime and you just couldn't beat him and whatever. Like this is there's the Sixers have Joel Embiid. They have to be able to build a team that's better than this Boston team. Like it's so possible, and we're just gonna screw it up because we don't do those smart little Derek White stuff.
Well, you know what the Celtics did that a lot of teams don't do? The Warriors did it too. Is they understood that a hard time and adversity is just that. Like taking lumps from season to season is that they are growing pains. And when you allow your young stars like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond, when you allow them to grow with each other, go through growing pains together, one day, one season, you get over the hump. And a lot of teams see problems in 1 year and feel the need to get rid of everything, to flip stuff on its head in the offseason. And instead of allowing players to mature through those growing pains, through that process, both of these franchises are a product of that. And I think a lot of teams,
to be fair to the Sixers, you can't have a player grow and mature when he doesn't show up.
Matt, here's the thing. Not everything is about the Sixers. One,
but we were comparing the Sixers. But we were. I made a comparison from the Sixers, how they've mismanaged the way to get their talented players to the promised land, while the Celtics have been able to be more successful at it.
Let me kick you a little copium here, a little cope. The Sixers did have their chance. That was last year when they were the number 1 seed with a new coach like Boston has. Or Ime Udoka's second year or first year? First year. Same team. The difference is Boston has a bunch of guys who are committed, bought in, and ready to work and improve themselves. And the Sixers' second best player was not. So that's and then forced his way off the team. So like those are the real differences. I wouldn't feel too bad about the whole Boston thing. If anything, they've earned it. Yeah.
I guess that's my point. Like you you go through these pains as when they're young stars, knowing their potential, knowing how good they can be, knowing how much their game has to grow, and they allowed their stars to see the other side of that. Now they're just reaping the benefits of that. So
They were under 500 in January, and they didn't
yeah, it's tough.
panic.
Yeah, that's tough. But we'll move on to the rest of the series because Game 3 starts tonight. So for games 3, 4, 5, and the rest of the series on, if there are to be, both of these teams are going to have quote unquote what we like to call make or break players, and players that if they play well for these teams, it's probably going to lead to them hosting a Larry O'Brien Trophy. If they don't, it's probably going to lead to them watching the other team host the Larry O'Brien Trophy and not winning the finals. So we can go from team to team or player to player and really see who the make or break players for each team. For the Celtics, we saw it, right? And Kyle touched on it as one of his most important players going into the series. It's Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown is going to continue to be an X factor. If you look at kind of the bare bones of games 1 and game 2, it might have you thinking differently because they win game 1 when he's not that much of a factor. They lose game 2 when he gets out to this torrid start. But as the series goes on, Jaylen Brown is only going to continue to be just more and more and more important for them. Game 1 does end up with 24, 7, and 5, 2 steals and a block. Game 2 comes out hot and cools down, 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists on only 29% from the field. So what are we expecting for Jaylen Brown as he comes back home to Boston now?
He's not going to go 2 of 14 in the he started 3 of 3 game 2, and then he just couldn't buy a basket at all. 2 of 14. That's not going to keep up. Jaylen Brown is such a you can count on him to have at least 19 points 90% of the time.
You love the 19 points barometer.
Yep.
That's
I want to be clear. He's definitely better than Andrew Wiggins.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just he's not going to play like that 2 games in a row. He's mad at himself for letting a good start slip from both the Celtics perspective and him personally perspective. There's other guys on the list who I don't think their level of talent's nearly as high. This is a guy, he'll get it together. He's a stud. He's the second best player on a team that can win the finals.
Yeah, what I saw, Jake, real quick, what I saw in game 2 is he gets off to that hot start, and then the Warriors have what they think is the ultimate equalizer in Draymond playing the Doctor Strange mind games, and they kind of either Draymond said it or the Warriors said it sick him, go get him. Go Scarlet Witch his mind, and then and what happens? They get in a little skirmish. Draymond almost tries to pull his shoulders down, and then Jaylen Brown after that is not the Jaylen Brown that started the game. So it's keeping your composure throughout all of that. There's so much energy in the finals. There's so much momentum, such an atmosphere in the NBA finals that I think if you don't pace yourself and stay calm, stay poised throughout the game, then you're susceptible to kind of falling off the cliff, in the second half or not sustaining yourself. So if Jaylen Brown does that, just keeps his head, doesn't allow the moment to get big, players to get under his skin, I see him being and staying consistent.
Yeah, he's always been an interesting, his and Tatum's dynamic working together has always really interested me because obviously in game 1, he's really involved, 7 rebounds, 5 assists aside from scoring 24 points. And that was a game in which Tatum really, as we said, embraced more of the facilitator role. And overall that game, I mean, it's I guess confirmation bias because they won the game, but and they were hitting the shots. But when that happened, all of the role players, including Jaylen Brown, I'm not saying he's a role player, but I do think he falls under Tatum in the hierarchy of the offense.
Of course.
I think that he really benefits from that creation where, and it could be the Draymond thing and letting the game kind of losing the handle of the game in the third quarter can kind of throw you for a loop. But I would say if they can continue to play team basketball, he's going to be someone who one-on-one within their offensive system can really pick apart some of the lower level defenders that aren't Draymond Green on ball.
Yeah, and Kyle also did a great job of pointing this out when he talked about Jaylen Brown, is when Jaylen Brown is that 24 to 25 per game scorer, it takes the Boston Celtics to a whole new level, puts so much pressure on the defense. And you see that. Games 1, he comes out with 24 points. Game 2, he comes out with 17 points. If Jaylen Brown stays at that, like he set that standard for himself. Through the second round of the conference finals, he became a 25 per game scorer in the playoffs. That's the bar you've set. So now going against the toughest competition that you're going to see in the championship round, I think you have to stay at that level. If he starts to go down, that's when the Celtics start to lose the grip on the series. If he stays at that 24, 25, 26 per game through the rest of the series, I'm very confident in Boston's scoring output and their ability to at least keep pace with the Warriors if they're not able to stop them. But we can move on to another make or break player. Y'all got to not cringe through this whole thing. And you got to try not to make it about the Sixers. But that boy, Big Al, is showing up. At least he showed up in game 1. Very impressive. 26 points on 75% from the field, 6 for 8 from 3, which, by the way, Al Horford's shooting stroke is the ugliest yet most beautiful shooting stroke I've ever seen. Like it doesn't look good, but every time he releases the ball, I feel like it's going to go in. Like I'm confident when Al Horford shoots from 3 that he's going to make it. But then in game 2, I was very wrong. 2 points or 25% from the field. Didn't attempt a 3-point in game 2, the first time in the postseason that he has yet to do that. So there's the exact pattern you're looking for. We talked about it a little bit in our game 1 and game 2 summary, but Al Horford's on in game 1, they win. He's not on in game 2. So what do we expect from Al Horford going the rest of the series, Jake?
I think that, game 2, they lost the physical battle. I think it was evident by Kevon Looney having a good game. But beyond that, the Warriors made it a lot more difficult on Al Horford by running more pick and roll. And I don't have the numbers in front of me in terms of how many pick and rolls in game 1 versus game 2. But I do know, I saw a stat that they were shooting like 70, or Golden State was shooting 70 to 80% on pick and roll drop coverage. So when the big doesn't come up to support, and like, if Al Horford has to come out to the perimeter and now you've gotten a switch on Al Horford, not only is he running around chasing Steph Curry or Jordan Poole or whoever the ball handler might be, now he's winded getting back on offense and he might not be as effective down there. So he only took 4 shots, I think, in game 2. And again, I think that's mostly 1 for 4, mostly because he's running around on the perimeter and having to do a lot more on defense.
Yeah, the Warriors, we talked about the Warriors offense being so, flowing, the ball moving, they get everybody involved, and Steph is a lot of off the ball, running off screens, catching it in his spots. And they haven't been that way through the first 2 games. I've been surprised. It's been a lot of Steph Curry on ball, and we're going to put the Celtics players in pick and roll situations and make them have to guard Steph like that instead of chasing him around screens and allowing them to switch that way. And it's working. Like the Celtics aren't used to how high you have to come up on an on-ball screen with Steph Curry. Like you see Al Horford and Daniel Tice, like, yes, sometimes they're in drop coverage, but sometimes Daniel Tice comes off to defending a screen and his heels are above the 3-point line. Yeah. And to any 7-footer, I'm up farther than I want to be. Like my heels are 22 and a half feet beyond the basket. I think I'm up. But you're still 3 feet away from Steph Curry because that ball screen was set 10 feet from the 3-point line. So you're not up, and now there's a 3-pointer going over your head. So,
and on top of that, you're like uncomfortable because you're still more up. So like you're still not. You feel like you're wrong, and you're wrong, but you're actually wrong because you're not enough.
You're even more wrong than you thought you were. Yeah. And not only are your heels on the 3-point line, but you're on your heels, ready to retreat, thinking you're up so far. So a lot of things happen in Steph Curry, and they put Al Horford in those situations. And it's sink or swim out there. Either you come out and guard Steph Curry, and now you're in an island, now you're in the ocean, or you go under the screen, and now there's a 3 being fired up. So I did notice that a lot of those drop coverages, they were doing like the rear view contest where the big drops, and then the guard goes up around the screen and contests Steph Curry from behind. It didn't work. You tried it. You saw it. It didn't work. Sort of thing. That adjustment's got to be made for game 3. But going back to Al Horford in game 3 through the rest of the series, I do think the Warriors found that if Kevon Looney, like that matchup is between Al Horford and Kevon Looney. And Kevon Looney, being the younger player, has to have more energy than Al Horford. Like I think he got outworked in game 1, and that's going to be interesting to see because Kevon Looney's got more of a motor, just being younger than Al Horford. If he outworks him, down low, like he beat him on both sides of the ball. If he does that, then Al Horford's not going to be a major factor in the series, and that's going to lead to the Warriors, taking home the trophy.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Al Horford's rebound totals he's averaging 7 for the series. And if you look at what he did against Miami, game 7 he had 14 rebounds. Game 6 he had 9. In game 4 he had 13. In game 3 he had 14. He is not getting to where he wants to be from a rebounding perspective this series so far. He hasn't been bad, obviously, but when you play the position, the center, power forward, wherever Horford's kind of playing, 7 rebounds you're gonna get 7. That's the number you're gonna hit at least. And he hasn't found a spot to really have one of those 14, 13 rebound games. And it's one of those things where if Boston's role players are missing, he needs to be there to get some of those offensive rebounds. And on the other side, obviously, make sure he gets rebounds that the Warriors don't scoop up for a second chance.
Yeah, and I will come to Al Horford's defense a little bit in terms of the scoring output for Game 2, because Game 1 and Game 2 were much different. Game 1, he's seeing his best offensive player struggle, and as a role player, which Al Horford is a big role player, as a role player, much easier to hit shots when everybody else is hitting shots too. Yep. So if I'm Al Horford and Derek White splashing down, Marcus Smart splashing down, Grant Williams, everybody splashing down, I'm getting in on the action too. So there goes Game 1. Game 2, my star is on. Jason Tatum is on. Jaylen Brown started torrid.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the set. The offense is working as it should be.
Let me get out the way.
The top 2 stars are working. Now all of a sudden, Tatum or Jaylen Brown goes cold. Jason Tatum's not pacing as we thought he was going to throughout the entire game. Now all of a sudden, you want me to try to pick this thing up in the third quarter? Like, I know the Celtics made a big comeback on the back of Al Horford in Game 1, but that was still within all the role players in the flow of the game. That's not how Game 2 was going. And I don't hold Al Horford for not being able to pick it up when Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown drop it. That's not Al Horford's role to me. So the fact that he didn't do that in Game 2 is not, that's not, I don't hold him to that. Like, I don't punish him for that.
Right.
The reason why I'm picking Golden State in this series is because I think the Celtics are reliant on players like Al Horford, who is just kind of unfair for you to expect them to be on every single night. And I just think when he's on, that's a great bonus. He'll get you a game or maybe a second game in the series, but I just think he won't be on enough. And I really think that is the difference between the Warriors and the Celtics.
Well, I don't think they're relying on Al Horford to, to be one of the main scoring outputs for their team. I just think they're relying on Al Horford to be impactful in the game in the way Al Horford can, but not looking for him to be one of the top scorers or anything like that.
But they won against Milwaukee and they won against Miami because in 7, so very thin margins. Mm-hmm. And Horford scoring won them the game in both of those series. And to be fair, he already did that this series. So you could argue he doesn't need a second one.
Box checked.
But it's just, I just feel like he might need another one, and I don't think he'll give it to him.
That's fair. I think, and on the series too, we got Marcus Smart games. Yeah. That's a game that we haven't gotten. That's I'm looking for that one as well.
I think with Al Horford, like, because of the looks that Golden State can give you in terms of like Draymond at center, if you want to go really small and put, you can run Otto Porter out there as well, like maybe not as center, but as a forward, there are more looks that they can give Al Horford to get him out of where he wants to be, as we've been talking about, than like Boston has answers, which again, as you said, Matt, like I'm still pretty confident in Golden State in this series.
Boston did their job already, man.
It's true. It's true.
Still one on the road. We did that. I knew for a fact Golden State was going to win Game 2. I was surprised it was a blowout. Desperation, we can't go to Beantown down 2-0.
Right, can't do it.
Can't do it. So desperation, we get our Energizer Bunny back, the quote-unquote heart and soul of our team, Gary Payton II. We get him back in dramatic fashion, and now Draymond got something to prove. Of course Golden State was going to win that game. And if I'm Boston, Ime Udoka, Draymond. What you think was gonna happen? Like I'm
Draymond's
looking
gonna
at
be on his supervillain stuff tonight in Boston.
gremlin.
I'm just absolutely.
super
I
gremlin.
can't
Let's
wait.
talk about those Warriors as they go to Boston. Because before we move away from the Celtics, for everyone listening, everyone watching, we realize that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are very important players to these teams. When we talk about the make or break players, we are talking about outside of the given ones, the guys that we notice the pattern of when they play well, when they played well in games 1 and games 2, their team won. When they didn't play well in games 1 or game 2, their team lost. Everyone knows about Steph and company
Right.
and Jason Tatum and company. We're here to tell y'all what y'all don't know. And what y'all don't know about the Warriors is this man Jordan Poole stock is like the NASDAQ, because one day it's skyrocketing, the next day it's plummeting. And it can't be more fickle. Game 1, 9 points on 29% from the field, 4 turnovers, a 135 defensive rating. Game 2, it didn't start hot, but it ended up nice. 17 points on 43 from the field. 0 turnovers. He scored 14 of that 17 points in the second half. Like I said, the first half was not pretty for Jordan Poole, but it ended up being a pool party. And we talk about that momentum that Golden State has in those middle quarters. And it really started with one of the best shots I've seen all season, a Jordan Poole in and out tween standstill pull from 44, and it was absolutely water. So Matt, talk about Jordan Poole and how pivotal he is going down the rest of the stretch of this series for the Warriors.
Jordan Poole, he had 5 points in the game at the point. He was shooting 3 of 9 from the field, I'm pretty sure, going into the end of with 30 seconds to go in the third quarter. And he does a step back 3, bang. Then he shoots a half court step back that he planned. Wasn't like a just off the cuff, I need to shoot, time's running out. He looked up, looked at the clock. Okay, Steph taught me how to do this. I'm going to take the dribble, step up, and shoot it from a while, and he made it again. And those 2 shots turned it from a 17-point to a 23-point game. It ended the game. The game was over in those 30 seconds by Jordan Poole. And the fact that you can have a guy who is so confident in himself that even when he's cold, and even when Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are there on his team, and Andrew Wiggins even, he said, no, I can do the step back contested 3 near the end of the quarter. I can shoot the half court shot. And that level of confidence, and the fact that it's something he's been doing all postseason long, is such a big factor for the Warriors. Because he'll have a stinker, and they'll lose the stinker. But then he'll have 30 the next game. So
it was amazing to watch Jordan Poole struggle mightily through that first half. Comes in the first quarter, doesn't get off to a good start. Starts the second quarter, and they go on. They build some kind of momentum. I think they go on like a 5-0 run or something like that. Get a turnover, and then this man Jordan Poole, about like the 8-minute mark of the second quarter, takes a out of rhythm 30-footer from the top of the key, the Brickashaw Ferguson, and Steve Kerr takes him right out. And at that moment, I'm like, we're not seeing Jordan Poole for the rest of the second quarter. Like, we're not. Like, he's done. That's it. And then he gets a chance with about a minute left, Matt, like you says, goes back to back in these crazy shots, and all of a sudden it's like Jordan Poole is here again. Like it's like that first half didn't happen. I thought it was really crazy to see how streaky and how high he can get real quick.
He is like that, like the difference between someone who's good at basketball. You could be good at basketball and not be a hooper, right? Like, do you believe that? Like Tobias Harris, I don't know if you could call it like, oh, Tobias Harris hoops. No, he doesn't.
Leave my man Tobias alone.
Andre Drummond doesn't hoop. Like, he's not a hooper. Like,
Tobias catching a straight ball.
So I think there's a distinction between, like, there's another level to it. A bucket getter. Like they are able to find, and what amazes me about this is they're able to, he was the end of the first round guy, Jordan Poole, maybe second round guy. Not hailed out of Michigan. They bring him in, are able to coach him up, and now we haven't seen like a big explosion yet. I think it is coming, but it just goes to show like the Warriors system can really turn someone into a next level playmaker. And what is sickening to think about, right? He's pulling up from half court. Imagine the next time down in an alternate universe, here comes LaMelo Ball, who they could have had another half court. He points down half court jump shot off the bench. Like that, the Warriors are really, and it's probably important to make note, the Warriors are really playing with house money, still coming out of like a big time injury to their stars, both stars. Like, oh yeah, we still got depth for days, and the best team in the league. Yeah,
they've still only lost 5 times in the entire playoffs, including the finals. I have noticed something about Jordan Poole though, and I am talking from a Celtics point of view that have them slated to win in 7 games. When I look at what Jordan Poole brings to the Warriors, if the game is in the Warriors' momentum, I'm terrified of Jordan Poole. If they're in rhythm, the offense is flowing, Jordan Poole scares me. If their offense isn't clicking, I want Jordan Poole probably to take every shot. I want the ball in Jordan Poole's hands if their offense isn't clicking because his shot selection is wild. And he's such a rhythmic player. He reminds me J.R. Smith-esque in that way that if the game is broken and I'm the other team, please give the ball to JR. Please give the ball to him because he's going to try to he's going to try to make it happen. He's going to try to give all their momentum back in this one play, and it might not happen. But if he's playing within the energy of the crowd, within the rhythm of the offense, he's feeding off his teammates. Jordan Poole's actually probably one of the last people I want them to have the ball, and I think Game 2 is evident of that. When he comes into the game and Steph Curry is the only one hitting shots, everyone's still struggling. The game is a lot low scoring. Jordan Poole struggles. They start to gain all this momentum in the second quarter going into halftime, and all of a sudden, Jordan Poole is the straw that's breaking the camel's back. So if I'm Boston, if I keep them contained, Jordan Poole doesn't hurt me. If I let it get off the rails, Jordan Poole might be the one to end me. Like you said, Matt, he ended the game. Like he might be the one to end me.
It's fair also to say that, and to give credit to Boston's backcourt. I mean, phenomenal defensively. Like maybe not. I mean, there's the pick and roll defense obviously in Game 2 kind of failed them, but when you're going up against Derek White, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, even Peyton Pritchard's undersized, but he is a competitor. He tries hard.
Tenacity.
So, that's really like a big time matchup that I think we highlighted before the series. And there's a reason that if Boston were to win, I think it would be that they're, beyond Steph Curry, they hold those other players down pretty well in the Warriors, which to this point you could make the argument they've done.
Yeah, to be honest, if Boston's backcourt holds this output for the Warriors' backcourt, I think they win. Like I think if they continue to hold Klay Thompson to under 20 every game, if they continue to hold Jordan Poole to under 20 every game, if they continue to not get off, Boston puts themselves in a position to win every game. Like I really think they do. Like if I'm the Warriors, I'm not satisfied with the output that because Steph Curry cannot do this on his own. Steph Curry needs a little bit of help on the offensive end. And who does he get that help from? The next player we're going to talk about for the Warriors, that make or break guy, we will invoke his name. The second splash brother, Klay Thompson, because coming into the conference finals, we thought Klay had found it. He had strung off a couple of 25 to 30 point games. He was shooting well from the field, and we saw it taper down a little bit in the conference finals, but they were playing the Mavs, so it didn't hurt him that much. And now he's still struggling to really get it going in the NBA Finals. 15 points on 42% from the field in Game 1, little pedestrian. Game 2 really struggled. 11 points on 21 from the field, only hit 1 3 in 8 tries. And in these playoffs, he's shooting 38% from 3, 42% when he doesn't dribble, 30% when he dribbles. So a lot of people ask Klay, like, what's the adjustment? What do you got to do? And he said, maybe I got to YouTube, or I'm going to YouTube Game 6 Klay. Well, when Game 6 Klay happens, he takes like 6 dribbles and scores 40 points. All of those games, he doesn't dribble the ball. So maybe it's Klay just not trying to force the action, not trying to put the ball on the floor immediately and allow the offense to work, get the ball on your spot and shoot it confidently. And maybe it goes back in. But Jake, I'll kick this one to you. What do we get from Klay through games 3 and on? Because they need him. The Warriors need him if they're going to want to pull a championship out.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind, when gauging Klay Thompson, he missed a ton of time this year. And, it takes a little while to acclimate yourself back into the NBA, and he's had ample time to do that. But I do think that we see that play out going from, the first stretch of games, be it game 1, game 2, to games 3 and 4, especially this postseason. When you compare his numbers in the first 2 games in this series, he's averaging 13 points on 30% from the field, 26.7% from 3, which is like not the Klay Thompson that we know at all. And when you look back games 3 and 4 this postseason, after he's had a little bit of time to acclimate himself to the team that he's playing, he's averaging 20.7 points, 4.8 rebounds, just about 2 assists, and 48% from the field, 40% from 3, which is much more attuned to what you have came to expect over the years with Klay Thompson. So I think, it's kind of sad to see that he's been through so many injuries and somewhat isn't the same guy, but he could still, again, like knock down open shots. You don't want to leave Klay Thompson. I mean, like, you're still flying out to Klay Thompson. So I would say that he probably does start to turn it around, but I don't know if we're seeing like a 30, 40 point Klay Thompson vintage performance.
We may not.
Klay is done as a unstoppable level of force player, which he got to at times in Golden State. Just look at in Golden State before his injuries in the 2019 finals, he shot 58% from 3, 58% on 8 attempts per game.
That's ridiculous.
The good news for the Warriors is that he doesn't need to do that, because this Warriors team is much better built and if he can just get back to the 38% he's shooting this playoffs, that's fine. That's a very good shooter. That's going to draw a lot of attention.
Way above average.
Yeah, and he's had moments this postseason, and he's going to have moments this series. Closeout game against Dallas, he had kind of a roughish series against Dallas points-wise. He has 32 to close him out, 8 threes. Game 6 against Memphis. Game 6 Klay isn't just a thing of the past. It happened a month ago. And he has 30 points to beat Memphis, including a big fourth quarter to close them out. So Klay's fine. His mentality, that the press conference that he gave where he mentioned Game 6 Klay, he seems like he's in a real good mood. He's a guy who own performance doesn't matter as much as a team winning. There's the famous meme of him sitting on the bench after fouling out in the NBA Finals, but the Warriors are going to win, and he's smiling. So, he's going to get his at some point. It's going to happen sooner rather than later, and we can see that just from this postseason in games 3 and 4, he's shooting 40% from 3 and 48%. So it's not like his scoring totals aren't that high, but you don't need it to be when you have everything else around them.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point that you make. You see a lot of players ease into a game. Klay might be easing into a series. We see him, flip the switch in latter parts of the series in the past, and it may just be about that. There's adjustments to be made, and the Warriors are one of the best teams to adjust in the NBA, and they've made an offensive adjustment going into this series. We just talked about it. Steph is way more on ball, way more ball screens to Steph Curry, and I'm wondering how much that is affecting Klay Thompson being off the ball, because Klay is used to Draymond being the facilitator in the offense. I think Draymond knows to drive and kick to the three-point line and where Klay is going to be. Steph Curry isn't the facilitator of that offense. And although Steph Curry's passing has been more on display in game 1 and game 2 in the NBA Finals than I think I've ever seen it, not even always leading to assists, just being willing to pass out of or make the right reads and pass out of danger. But that's not going to Klay on the three-point line. It's going to Kevon Looney on the inside. It's going to Draymond at the foul line. It's going to, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's going to those kind of dump off passes. Klay is not, that's not how the Warriors offense is used to running. So I'm just wondering how much we can attest that to Klay being off, that the offense is run a little bit differently. And to Matt's point about Klay easing it in, we may see the adjustment and Klay start to get into it games 3, 4, and on, right? Because now we know how the offense is run. Now we know how to get Klay more involved into it, what Steph makes these reads. So I'll be interested to see that, because, I mean, Jake, you kind of said it, like I can't bank on Klay Thompson staying down for an entire series. If you do, I think Boston, you really have to start looking at Boston's defense about how great they can be. But at some point, Klay is coming, right? Like at some point, you got to expect him to.
And even if it's not like a whole game, like it'll be a big shot. Like there's going to be some impact that Klay Thompson's going to have on this series for the Warriors to win, and I think that he'll make it. That I don't know if I'd bank on like a big game though.
Right. Okay, so we'll end. Well, we're actually getting to the end of the pod, so we'll end this on a little bit. I see a question in the script, and I like it. I want to get down to it. Beyond Steph and Tatum, so beyond the Warriors' best player, beyond the Celtics' best player, rank the players in the series that you'd be most scared of taking a big shot if you're opposing fan. So game comes down the line, ball's not in Steph's hands, ball's not in Tatum's hands. So Jake, your players you'd be most scared of to take a game-winning shot from these teams.
Yeah, I had a little bit of trouble with this because it's like personally, like in terms of my mental welfare, it would be Al Horford is who I would be most scared of. But realistically, you're going to have to go with Jaylen Brown. I think he is, as we talked about, Klay Thompson's had his struggles. So like, while I think he's still very capable of being the guy to knock down the shot, right now I would go with like a guy who's more likely to be in rhythm at the time of shooting, like Jaylen Brown, who needs the ball in his hands, dribbling, and he has knocked down some big shots before in the playoffs. So I would go Jaylen Brown 1, Klay 2, Horford 3, and then here's where you can kind of beyond 3, it kind of gets up in the air. I go Poole 4, just because it can be, as you said, that big knockdown momentum shot, and then Grant Williams 5. The prototypical Celtics shouldn't be good at 3-point shooting, but is just sitting out there. You leave him open.
But he hasn't been. But he really hasn't been in the series. He's also engaged in a mind game that he's not going to win with Draymond, and I think the Celtics might be sacrificing him for that. Yeah. For that reason.
Those are my top 5.
Matt, go ahead. Who are you scared of?
Yeah, so I think I don't care how cold Klay is. It's Klay.
I agree.
Klay's 1. Jaylen Brown 2. Anytime the Celtics shoot, I pray it's not Tatum or Brown, so Brown's there. Jordan Poole, just because he can go on runs where he becomes the most dangerous player afraid of taking a shot of in the moment. I think you could honestly argue him higher, but that's unfair to Brown. And then Derek White. Derek White shoots 30.5% from 3. I don't think I've ever seen him miss.
Game two, he made every 3 imaginable off the dribble in the corner, contested. He made every dribble or every 3 imaginable.
Let me paint a picture real quick for Matt though, because I see that Horford, I think saltiness is excluded from this list. But
Jake, Al Horford's not hitting a big shot.
Down 4, your team's down 4, 50 seconds left. The ball gets kicked to a wide open Al Horford.
I'm a little scared. No, I'm
petrified. In my history, I've never seen a player hit more of those shots than like a perfectly swung and perfectly rotated ball to Al Horford.
No, I'm a little scared. Yeah, when you paint the scenario, Martian's got the death beam pointed at me. I might want Al Horford.
I swung to Al Horford, not an Al Horford. Anything else? You got to get it in rhythm.
In rhythm, Al Horford. I'll give my quick list. 1, Matt, I agree with you. No care how cold he is, he can miss his next 25 shots. If the game's on the line and the ball gets swung to Klay, you can't tell me that you'd rather him than somebody else take the shot. You can't. No, the ball got to be out of his hands. Klay has proven that too many times. The second one is where I have a little bit of trouble because you're right. It should be on paper Jaylen Brown. But the player I know Jaylen Brown is, he's not a knockdown shooter. He's not a catch and shoot guy. Like if he gets the ball maybe out of the side of of an inbound, and gets a chance to size up his defender and take a step in 3, it may go in. But in the flow of can I bank on that? I'm not sure. But then you talk about Jordan Poole and Derek White. Like I'm watching Derek White hit all these shots that he needs to make. And when he's counted on and he's relied upon, he knocks them down. And if Derek White is on the floor at the end of the game and the ball gets kicked to him, I'm confident he's making that shot. And if I'm the Warriors, he's not the person I want to see. I might put Derek White 2, followed by Jaylen Brown and then Jordan Poole after that. And Grant Williams might get a nod. I also think we're overlooking both Andrew Wiggins and Marcus Smart a
Smart.
little bit
Yeah,
in these
Smart.
roles. Marcus Smart for sure. Now, I'm not sure if Marcus Smart is going to knock down the shot, but what he's shown multiple times in these playoffs is he's going to make the right read. Look at the game winner against Milwaukee in game 1, right? Like Marcus Smart gets the ball kicked to him with 4 seconds left. Oh, I'm sorry, against Brooklyn. Marcus Smart gets the ball kicked to him with 4 seconds left, and everyone thinks that shot's going up. And he pump fakes, splits the defense, and finds a cutting Jason Tatum for the actual game winner. That's an incredible read at the end of the game. So the shot making not, but I would trust Marcus Smart with the ball in his hands at the end of the game. But I really think everyone's overlooking Derek White for this question. I really do.
We're Derek White haters. Certified. We are.
Well, all the guys that we named are going to see people. Jaylen Brown's going to see multiple people. Jaylen Brown's one-on-one. I think it's a defensive lapse. If Jordan Poole's one-on-one, it might be a defensive lapse. Derek White is going to find himself either open or with one person on him. And I like that. I like that shot for him.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Derek White,
fair.
man.
That's fair.
Yeah. Before we go, real quick, who's your take for Finals MVP?
Oh.
Curry.
Yeah, if I had to, like, the favorite's definitely Curry because I think they're going to win. And if the Warriors win, it cannot be anyone but Curry. Like, I won't hear an argument for anyone but Curry. But I think in terms of value, if we're talking betting market wise,
here you go.
I might look at like a Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Probably those are the only 3 that I think can win it, though.
I'm definitely going Jason Tatum. I only bring this up because the NBA ladder came out for Finals MVP, and I saw Kevon Looney 3 and Jason Tatum 4. I'll say it again. I saw Kevon Looney 3 and Jason Tatum 4. I understand that their logic is they think the Warriors are going to win, so it's more likely that like Kevon Looney gets it. But my logic is it is more likely the Celtics win and Jason Tatum gets Finals MVP than it ever is the Warriors win and Kevon Looney gets Finals.
The idea that it's like clearly more likely that Golden State wins when it's a 1-1 series.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing if you think there's a favorite, but like it's not like a clear edge.
The ladder went Steph Curry. It was 3 Warriors and then Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So it went Steph Curry, probably Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
Kevon Looney.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Jason Tatum. How Kevon Looney finds himself in this mix was beyond me.
Honestly, Al Horford's getting slept on. It's about Finals MVP is about how you do in your team's wins.
Yeah.
If he was the best player in their 1 win. So like a long shot.
How much better does he have to be than Tatum for them to win and not give it to, you know what I'm saying? Or Brown.
Brown. There's four wins to win a series. He was the best player in 1, so he needs to be the best player in another one, and then Tatum can't be both of the other wins. Right. It's not going to happen, but
it's more likely than Kevon Looney doing it.
Yeah,
it's more likely than that.
It's definitely more likely than Kevon Looney.
It's really just all I wanted to gripe about is Kevon Looney being above Jason Tatum for ladder. But we're almost out of time for this episode of Straight Facts. As always, we can get some shots about the buzzer. Who's got a shot at the buzzer for me?
I want to yell at
somebody.
Complete greedy pieces of crap golfers. These golfers joining the LIV, the Saudi-backed.
Yeah, explain that to me because I'm a little like confused on the whole situation.
So basically, the Saudi government wants good PR from themselves because they do a lot of horrible things, including killing an American journalist and then sawing him up and dismembering him. And they have a lot of money because of their royal family. So they decided they're going to improve their PR by plastering their name on a bunch of different sports things. So people, when they think Saudi Arabia, they think, oh, the golf. Oh, we own Newcastle United, the Premier League team. They're trying to get it so it's more kind of acceptable in their thing. So they're investing their money for PR to cover their atrocities. And Phil Mickelson is the head. They're paying him $200 million to do this, which Phil has like it's like there's like documented stuff about like he's like a big like he has a gambling problem.
I heard he's
Like
really,
he's like
okay, but before we
so-
get into like explain like what is it? What's going on? Because I don't understand
it's a
why people are
competitive.
pulling out of the PGA.
It's a competitive league to the PGA,
Gotcha.
it's like the USFL to the NFL.
except they're
but
actually
with-
getting like real golfers.
right.
They're
yeah,
getting
Dustin
Dustin
Johnson,
Johnson,
Kevin
Brian
Na, yeah, like
DeChambeau, Sergio Garcia, Phil Mickelson.
Yeah.
Like these are Louis Oosthuizen. Like these like there's a lot of like really good golfers in this. And if you join that, you can't play in any PGA Tour events except for majors.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it
yeah,
was all PGA.
Because opens.
so they didn't take the.
I don't know about the PGA Championship. I know you can play in both opens because the opens are by definition open. Literally anyone can start a tournament and try to make the U.S. Open, starting in local qualifying tournaments. And the Masters is a private invitational. So at least 3 of the tournaments. So my thing is just take one for the team. If you're a spectator at like the Masters or the U.S. Open or the British, and yell in their backswing like just like blood money or something like that, because these people
on his protest vibe.
Why I don't understand. It's a mindset I just cannot fathom. If you have 15 million in the bank, like. And I'm underestimating Dustin Johnson, I'm sure, because he has a lot of brand deals too, and he's married to Wayne Gretzky's daughter. Why do you need Why do you need to accept
Matthew?
Come on, man.
What in your life changes? No, but what in your life changes by
nothing?
You're
But
just
are you-
now
are you-
adding
are you-
generations of family
Yeah.
that are good.
are good.
my
You
opinion.
can't. There's the like. I understand your logic and your confusion, but are you surprised that a professional athlete is chasing a bag?
No, I'm not
Over
surprised
over
by it.
morals?
It's the PGA isn't skimping. Like
They're not.
big prizes for the
For
PGA.
sure. Is it Saudi money? because they told that boy Phil Mickelson, here goes 200
No,
mil.
PGA gets their money mostly probably from ad revenue from their all their stuff and brand deals and stuff.
Like
look.
realistically though, like if the Saudi football league said, "Hey Tom Brady, we have $1 billion for you. Come over and play over here." He's there. Like everyone's
guess
got
what
a
Tom-
price.
Guess
It's
where
terrible,
Tom
but
is.
everyone has a price.
Guess where Tom is telling Giselle and the kids we moving to. If they flash that money, it's, yeah, we going overseas, man. Like
I'm the Brady hater. Brady wouldn't do that. I'm telling you, he wants to play in the NFL against the best competition.
NFL's a little different
Because
of how
he's a
big it
like
is.
competitive nut,
Right.
and he's obsessed with winning
It's-
at the highest level.
it's not, and that's a little bit different because it's in a league. But take a sport that has individual players like tennis. Like if they flash a bag at Djokovic, Joker's going where the bag is. They flash a bag at Tsitsipas, he's going where the bag is. Like that's what happens, man. That's just what happens in professional sports. Jake, you got something about the buzzer?
I do. After we are done this recording, I will be watching Hustle, which is the Adam Sandler movie that was filmed outside of my house.
So dope.
Juancho Hernan Gomez, funny enough, he's like the main lead in that movie, which is funny. He's like some like star who comes over from Spain. Like, oh, he did do that in real life. Then he wasn't like any good.
He's not
But,
that good, right?
He will win a ring. If the Celtics win, he will be getting a ring. He started the season with them, but I'm wondering if I may flake on that movie and just watch the finals because I'll miss like the first half of the finals if I go watch it. So
Yeah, I'm not watching. I'm gonna watch the movie at some point this weekend, probably, but I'm not gonna miss.
I'm
the
gonna
finals
forget.
for it.
I'm gonna forget that a member of my podcast say he may not watch the finals tonight.
I would watch it at some point. It just may not be live.
Okay, Nick.
I will watch. I will watch part of it.
We forgot to mention an important Celtic that can win a ring, and that's Sauce Castillo, Nick Stauskas.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
Nick
your boy.
Stauskas donning an NBA court in 2022 is another thing that just electrified me to my core.
Hey, got finals minutes, baby. He got finals minutes. Baby.
ah.
He gonna have game shots of. He got the jersey with the NBA finals.
He's got the
logo on back,
patch.
and it's got a
That's
little.
not right.
And Jake, and it got a little sweat on it now.
Oh,
Now
that's not right.
Now it's game warm. Now
Not
it's
right.
game warm. God, beautiful. The only thing I have to say at the buzzer is there are times where I wish our job or our profession as podcasters and media members wasn't so connected to social media. Because I don't know about you guys, but it's just over like, the past month, couple of weeks, social media has been real negative for me. It's been real toxic. My timeline hasn't been filled with positive things. And that starts to get to me at a time. And it gets to me even more when I realize that unplugging is more difficult for people like us who, like, our jobs are so much on social media. It revolves around interaction, revolves around posting, revolves around seeing what other people are doing, that I feel that if I do disconnect from it, that I'll be too disconnected from what I need to see in terms of, sports media and sports interaction. So this is just me kind of, peeling back the curtain a little bit and sharing what I've been going through. Anybody else out there who's been going through the same thing, I feel you. And just, kind of pray for better days for our world, because I think social media is just a really dramatic reflection of what's going on in the world. So when the world's bad, social media is terrible. So pray for better times for our world, and hopefully social media gets a little bit better, man. Because it's been weighing on me a little bit. Not gonna lie, it's been a little much lately, and I wish I could just unplug from it completely, but people need the real Jimmy J, so I can't.
I hear you. That is so brutal. Like, you really can't take off. Like, I mean, obviously it's a little different, but like, I work with radio hosts who, a lot of them do, because they are on and they, have a scheduled show. A lot of them just kind of like, no, hands up in the air with social media. And that's like looked down on in the company. Like, oh, like this guy doesn't have a lot of social media followers. Like, on one hand, I get it. On the other, I'm like, dang, like, you really do have to be always plugged in.
Yeah, you got to be plugged in. Like, it's a huge barometer. So, we all know how bad social media can be. So I just, reminder everyone that, put your phone down for a little bit throughout the day, go enjoy real life, because that breath of fresh air of reality, it helps for when you have to go and plug back into social media to the fake world. But that's all the time we have for this episode of Straight Facts. It was a great one. Shout out to our guy Kyle Sirik out there with the great boyfriend duties. Also, happy birthday to Mrs. Kyle Sirik out there. Shout out to everyone on the Up On Game Network, LeVar Arrington, Plexico Burrs, and TJ Hushmanzada. And shout out to my guys Jake Galley and Stat Matt Robinson. I'm James Jackson. These have been the facts.
Straight up.